The narcissist's secret double life when you're gone.
9 things a narcissist does when they're alone. Have you ever felt that sinking pit in your stomach when your narcissistic husband, wife, boyfriend, or girlfriend announces they'll be home alone for a few days? That feeling of dread you get is completely valid. When a narcissist is left to their own devices with no one watching, the nice persona they put on for everyone else comes crashing down. I'm going to pull back the curtain and expose the 9 most twisted, messed up things narcissists do when they're flying solo. Fair warning, some of the stuff I'm about to reveal is pretty shocking and disturbing. If you are new to the channel, it is my request that you consider subscribing before we begin, because your subscription may help in spreading awareness about this important issue. Narcissists are masters at appearing charming and innocent to the outside world. But when they think no one is looking, their true ugly nature gets unleashed. So what kind of depraved things do they get up to when you're not around? Keep watching to find out. It's going to get wild.
The social media cesspool, a narcissist online depravity exposed.
When a narcissist is home alone, one of the first places they flock to is social media. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for narcissistic supply and attention. With zero shame and no one watching, they go completely off the rails, acting thirstier than a cat stuck in the desert. You know those thirsty people who leave cringy comments on influencers' pics, talking about how hot they are? Or those weirdos who slide into people's DMs with pickup lines straight out of a low-budget porn film? Well, take that behavior and multiply it by 1,000, and that's how a narcissist acts on social media when you're gone. They become that grimy guy from high school who never grew up, firing off perverted messages to anything with a pulse. For narcissists who get their rocks off on more explicit stuff, they may even start trading nudes and lewd videos with random strangers online. Your narcissist husband or wife is basically behaving like a dirtbag frat boy when mommy and daddy aren't watching. Imagine this. You're a hard-working hairstylist, and your narcissistic boyfriend is holding down the fort at home for the weekend while you're visiting family out of town. At first, he's all sweet texts and checking in, but then his true colors start to show. You log into Instagram, and there he is, leaving a trail of cringe comments on D-list celebrity posts. Diane and Becky, you're looking fire tonight. Or you're Jessica, trying to Netflix and chill sometime. And it's worse. He's literally sliding into random girls' DMs saying stuff like, "I'd drink a bathtub full of your bathwater," or asking if they want to be his little quarantine cutie. It's icky, it's pathetic, and it's the real him when his narcissistic mask comes crashing down in an avalanche of thirst and depravity.
The ultimate smear campaign, a narcissist's vicious lies and rumors.
One of the most insidious things a narcissist does when you're out of the picture is unleash an all-out smear campaign against you. With their main source of supply cut off, their envy, jealousy, and insecurity go into overdrive. Like a rabid pit bull, they'll go on the attack against you in the ugliest way possible. They will straight up lie and make up vicious rumors behind your back, trash-talking you to anyone who will listen. Your friends, co-workers, family, no one is off limits to the narcissist's poisonous tongue. They will spew every kind of horrible lie about you, accusing you of cheating, being an abusive monster, squandering money, you name it. Their goal? To assassinate your character and burn every bridge you have, isolating you from your support system, so you're all alone with no one but the narcissist to depend on. It's a cold, calculated destruction of your life meant to drag you down into their cesspit of misery. Let's say you're a dedicated nurse working 60-hour weeks, and your narcissistic husband is home holding down the fort while you're pulling a double shift. As soon as you walk out that door, he kicks into high gear. First, he fires off a group text to your closest friends, painting you as some heartless, abusive shrew who's been cheating on him and stealing money. Then he takes to the community Facebook group, posting about what an awful, neglectful mother you supposedly are to your kids. By the time you get home, your phone is blowing up with messages from people you thought were your inner circle, questioning your behavior, and essentially excommunicating you from the circle of trust. That's how low down and dirty a narcissist will get to isolate you and make you completely dependent on them for emotional support. They're willing to nuke your whole life if it feeds their sick need for control.
The endless bender, a narcissist night of debauchery alone.
With no one around to put on airs or keep up appearances for, many narcissists go off the rails and indulge in a never-ending bender of excess and debauchery. It's like that clip of the frat bros obliterating their house when their parents go out of town, but on an even more pathetic and depressing scale. We're talking drinking themselves into oblivion every night. Maybe snorting lines of cocaine off the coffee table, or binge eating their favorite junk foods until they puke. Essentially, any vice, bad habit, or rock-bottom behavior, a narcissist alone will shamelessly indulge in it all in an effort to numb the gaping void of emptiness inside them. And of course, pornography becomes their closest companion. They'll blast through websites and videos of the kinkiest, most graphic stuff, losing themselves in fantasy after fantasy as they descend into a pit of compulsive self-gratification. Every depraved thing you can imagine, they're indulging in it at full tilt while you're away. Picture this. You're a devoted yoga instructor, and your wife is the narcissist. You head out for a weekend yoga retreat in the mountains while your wife stays home alone. At first, she keeps up her prim and proper act. But about 12 hours into your trip, the dam bursts. By the time you return on Sunday evening, your living room looks like a drunken hurricane blew through. There are dozens of empty bottles and takeout containers strewn everywhere. You follow a rank odor and find your wife splayed out half naked on the bathroom floor, dried vomit caked around her mouth as crumpled pornographic magazines litter the area. Her laptop is open to a grotesque array of graphic videos. This once seemingly prim and proper woman you married has fully descended into hedonistic hell binging on every vice imaginable in a sad effort to fill the punishing emptiness inside her.
Calling ex supplies for attention, a narcissist, shameless pleas for validation.
When their usual vices, drinking, drugs, and adult entertainment, fall short of refueling them with narcissistic supply, they resort to even more desperate measures. They start sniffing around past sources of supply, their exes, side pieces, or family members who are still trauma bonded to them. Like vampires sniffing out fresh blood, they pick up on the scent of any poor soul who still carries a flame for them or craves their abusive need for validation. It could be an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend they ruthlessly discarded years ago that they finally circle back to. Or a family member who's been trained to constantly put them on a pedestal, no matter how awfully they behave. Whomever it is, the narcissist won't hesitate to sink their fangs back into that poor soul and drain them of every last drop of attention and adulation. They'll spin whatever lies and sob stories they need to reel their old sources of supply back into their toxic grip. It's really pathetic to witness a grown adult so lacking in self-love that they'll grovel shamelessly for the smallest crumbs of validation. Let's say you're a CFO at a big company and your narcissistic husband is holding down the fort at home while you're away on business. After a few days alone, he rapidly spirals into self-loathing and desperation. He hasn't been able to get his supply fixed through drinking or binge watching his favorite shows. So he reaches out to the well he knows will never run dry his own mother. He downloads a burner app to disguise his number and calls her up, laying it on thick with the waterworks about how you've been verbally abusing and mistreating him and he's at his wit's end. Like a trained dog, his mother rushes over with care packages and encouragement, coddling her 40-year-old son as if he were a babe in arms. She strokes his ego and love bombs him, convincing him that you're the source of all his problems and that she'll always be there for her sweet little prince. It's almost laughably pathetic, a grown man suckling from his own mother's approval to feel temporarily whole again. But that's just how low a narcissist will stoop to get their ego fix.
Online pity party, a narcissist, pathetic ploys for social media sympathy.
If there's one thing a narcissist absolutely lives for, it's fishing for sympathy, covert validation, and painting themselves as the perpetual victim to gain attention and supply. So you can bet your ass when they're alone, they'll take those pity parties to the extreme on social media and other online platforms. Brace yourself for a tsunami of vague booking posts, indirect insults aimed at you, and long-winded soapbox diatribes about how terribly they've been mistreated and how resilient they are for soldiering through such abuse. It's the adult equivalent of a toddler chucking a wild temper tantrum for attention, but played out across Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, you name it. They may not overtly name names, but their little coded messages and dramatic speechifying are always fishing for the same thing, a showering of comments and affirmations from their sad little tribe of enablers, assuring them of what a courageous survivor they are. It's like an amusement park if the rides were all forms of narcissistic supply and attention. It's a narcissist's version of heaven. You're a badass boutique owner who's been killing it with your successful new store. While you're away at a big vendor conference, your narcissist husband is holding down the home front. You're having an amazing time living your best life, until you sleepily open Instagram one morning. There in your feed is a barrage of long-winded dramatic posts by your husband, each one more pathetic and self-aggrandizing than the last. Going through the valleys so I can appreciate the peaks, one reads alongside a black and white image of him staring haughtily out a rain-streaked window. Another post is a long, rambling word salad about narcs and how he's been the victims of psychopaths and toxic people in his life for far too long. He even posts a framed picture of some red scribble an elementary schooler would be embarrassed by, captioned "The path of the phoenix is coated in ashes." Every new entry is just an endless loop of self-serving humble brags and obvious callouts for his flying monkeys to rush in and blow smoke up his ass with comments about how resilient he is. It's the adult version of stomping your feet and holding your breath for attention. So cringeworthy.
Invasions of privacy, a narcissist boundary violations exposed.
One of the most twisted and violating things a narcissist does when you're away is embark on an all-out invasion of your privacy and personal boundaries. Like a raccoon ransacking your home for shiny objects, they will rifle through every inch of your personal spaces in search of juicy information to use against you. We're talking going through your email, text messages, photos, anything they can dig up. They read your most private journals, diaries, and notes with zero respect for your personal thoughts and boundaries. That Christmas gift you hid from them months ago? They've already found it and torn it open, because nothing is sacred when it comes to feeding their endless need for ammunition against you. That laptop or smartphone you thought was secured with multiple passwords and facial ID? They 100% found a way to hack in and comb through every conversation, web history, and private document you have tucked away on there. These narcissists are downright feral when it comes to violating your personal space. And make no mistake, every little morsel of info they dig up, no matter how innocuous or meaningless, is getting meticulously cataloged away to potentially use against you for control and leverage down the road. Your entire life's worth of privacy and personal sanctity is up for grabs. Let's say you're a hardworking school teacher whose narcissistic husband is tasked with watching the home while you're out on a week-long field trip with your students. You think you secured and locked away all your personal information in spaces. But not long after waving goodbye, that narc of yours starts getting curious. He first picks the lock on your bedside drawer and lays hands on your most cherished possession, the journal chronicling your inmost thoughts and feelings over the past 20 years. He gobbles up every morsel of personal information in there like a starving man, making mental notes of any vulnerabilities or insecurities he can blow up and use against you later. When that's not enough, he busts out his lockpicking set and goes to work on your laptop and phone. Chilling in bed, he scrolls through years' worth of your chat logs and email conversations, taking meticulous screenshots of anything he can remotely try to frame as inappropriate or suspect. Even your most mundane, "I bought milk at the grocery store" texts take on devious new meanings in his warped brain. By the time you return from your field trip, refreshed and happy, that joy will be short-lived. Your narcissist has already ransacked your entire life's worth of privacy and used it to build a brand new prison to hold you in.
Lovebombing and devaluation messages, a narcissist's psychological terror tactics.
One of the most jarring and confusing things to endure from a narcissist who's been left to their own devices is the roller coaster of texts, calls, and messages you'll receive from them. Imagine a schizophrenic person rapidly cycling between multiple personalities, love-bombing you one second with saccharine sweet talk and cruel mockery/devaluation the next. That's the sort of mental hell ride you're in for. Your phone will be inundated with a barrage of hot and cold messages, flicking back and forth between absurdly over-the-top flattery and ego-stroking, to gut-punching insults and rage-filled outbursts, accusing you of disloyalty or not validating them enough. These texts, calls, and messages add up in the hundreds, sometimes thousands during their nuclear meltdown alone. And they get more and more frantic, manipulative, and poisonous the longer you responsibly hold firm and ignore their sick mind games. The narcissist is spinning out, completely destabilized, without their primary source of supply present to control and torment. Imagine you take a girl's trip to Vegas for a long weekend to celebrate a girlfriend's birthday. Almost immediately after hitting Vegas, your narcissistic boyfriend launches an all-out offensive on your phone. It starts with romantic audio messages like, "Hey baby, I miss you so much already. This place feels empty without your radiant smile and warm embrace around to light up my entire universe. You're my everything. You know that? Gross, but whatever. You roll your eyes and keep having fun." Then 20 minutes later, it devolves into something much more sinister. "You're probably off gallivanting with other guys behind my back again. You disloyal snake. I should have known better than to trust you out of my sight for even a second." Just as quickly as the cruel tirade began, he's back to the saccharine lovey-dovey tone. "I'm so sorry, my love. You know I get insane jealousy flare-ups when we're apart for too long. This trip is killing me. Come home to daddy and never leave my side again." And so it continues, a textbook cycle of love bombing, devaluation, baseless accusations, future faking, and hoovering. Repeated ad nauseum until you either break down and re-engage or make it back home to face his terrifying wrath for abandoning him.
Delusional lies and fictions, a narcissist's intricate delusional lies and fictions.
Narcissists are some of the most prolific liars and fabulists you'll ever encounter. And when they're left to their own devices, their talents for crafting intricate webs of fiction and delusion go into absolute overdrive. With no one around to disrupt their fantasies, the narcissist can completely detach from reality and start methodically crafting the most outrageous made-up stories imaginable. Maybe it's harrowing tales of victimhood and trauma designed to rekindle your empathy for them, or grandiose yarns about outlandish heroic feats they've supposedly achieved while you were gone. Whatever form their delusions take, their tales become more bizarre and unhinged the longer they're left to stew and fixate. Pretty soon, the line between reality and fiction ceases to exist for the narcissist. They become utterly untethered from the truth, frantically spinning more and more preposterous narratives to feed their starving egos. And the worst part? Their twisted fabrications don't just stay confined to their own headspace. The narcissist will shamelessly attempt to integrate their delusions into the real world, roping in outsiders as props and accomplices to sell their human drama fantasies. Let's say you're a devoted elementary school teacher whose narcissistic husband holds down the fort while you're away at a week-long education conference. At first, he tries entertaining himself through his usual vices booze, call girls, gaming binges. But inevitably, the darkness of solitude consumes him. That's when his fantasies kick into high gear. Maybe he takes to Reddit and starts posting long-winded screeds about being the victim of a deranged home intruder, going into explicit detail about the harrowing self-defense situation that tragically resulted in grievous injuries. To the non-existent attacker, of course, he'll back up the posts with doctored photos of the crime scene and fake hospital selfies, basking in the sympathy and attention from his new rapt audience of enablers. Or perhaps he fabricates an entire network of lies implicating you, regaling your family members with tall tales about your secret addictions, shady business dealings, or imaginary lovers on the side. He reaches out to them individually with increasingly insane spins designed to turn them against you. By the time you return home, you're met by a chorus of concerns from loved ones about your bizarre behavior tales spun completely out of whole cloth by your narcissist's delusions. For the disturbed narcissist mind, there's no limit to the fictional realities and characters they can create when left alone to craft their mastermind misleading narratives.
Scorched Earth Mode, a narcissist's vengeful property damage exposed.
For even the most unwell of narcissists, there inevitably reaches an apocalyptic breaking point after being abandoned and deprived of their supply for too long. When this doomsday scenario strikes, they enter a frenzied manic state, channeling every ounce of their pent-up anguish, envy, and rage into a cataclysmic scorched earth event. No material possession is spared. No boundary is left uncrossed in their mad spree of unbridled destruction and depravity. We're talking burned belongings, smashed keepsakes, vandalized property, any and every atrocity they can physically act out in their frothing, unhinged desperation. It's the narcissist's twisted way of reclaiming control, smashing everything around them into oblivion as retaliation for their unquenchable sense of abandonment. And by the time their explosion has run its course, both people and property are left devastated in its wake. You're a respected financial advisor, married to a narcissistic social media influencer who craves the spotlight. You reluctantly leave town for a week to attend a corporate retreat, knowing your high-powered, needy spouse loathes being left alone. At first, the texts and voicemails seem harmless enough, pleased to return home, coupled with thinly veiled rage about you choosing strangers over your marriage. But after a couple days of perceived neglect and lack of adulation, the narcissist's already tenuous grip on reality starts to slip. You start receiving video files that are utterly incoherent, just frantic, rambling monologues of your spouse becoming increasingly disheveled and manic, railing against you through spittle-flecked lips. Their commentary grows more vile, vindictive, and deranged with each passing hour. And then one day, silence. A blissful 12-hour period where you can breathe easy and focus on work obligations. Until the next morning's calm is shattered by a string of voicemails, each more depraved than the last. At first, they simply detail how your spouse has taken care of destroying all your precious little toys in a cold, almost robotic monotone. Then the camera pans around, revealing the smoking husk of the home you built together. Every appliance busted. Priceless antique furniture smashed to splinters. Walls covered in scrawled profanity and obscene imagery. And in the center of the wreckage sits your narcissist, cackling maniacally with wild, dead eyes as the authorities finally descend on the gruesome scene. All because you had the audacity to leave their side. If this unvarnished exploration of the narcissist's solitary depravity has left you shaken, that's entirely by design. For too long, the true horrors of what these malignant beings are capable of when left unchecked have been swept under the rug, minimized, and explained away as mere eccentricities. But I implore you, don't drink their poisonous Kool-Aid a moment longer. The evidence has been laid bare, and the verdict is damning. When a narcissist is left to their own devices, no boundaries will be respected, no lines of decency left uncrossed in their perpetual pursuit of gratification. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos shining a light on these kinds of disturbing truths about narcissistic behavior. Your subscription helps spread awareness and may make a difference for others being abused.